Hey guys, since belief is such an important feature of knowledge, I thought it would be valuable to talk a little bit about belief to help us understand what belief is and how beliefs are adopted. So I call this the preferential belief adoption pathway, or PBAP for short. And this might look like a syllogism, but it's not. It's just a bunch of information that helps us kind of understand belief. So it starts with the existence of truth is self-evident, okay, as a foundation. Then a belief is a concept discerned or perceived to be true. And so it's important to realize that belief is far more substantive than people might give it credit for. A belief is a concept discerned or perceived to be true. So when we say true, it means the person actually has to discern that it's true. So if you take the example of the roulette wheel, if someone were to say, I believe it will come up 36, just because they say, I believe, doesn't mean that they necessarily actually believe it, that they actually have belief. If you were to test them and ask a question like, if it doesn't come up 36, can I kill you? And they would most likely say no, proving their unbelief. But even if they said yes, that would be evidence that they believe, but it still wouldn't be like an absolute, we wouldn't know absolutely that they believe, but that'd be pretty good evidence. Okay, so moving on, a belief is a concept discerned or perceived to be true. Next, a concept need not be true to be so determined, except that one wills to believe it so. Okay, a concept need not be true to be so determined, except that one wills to believe it so. So, of course, that just means that something doesn't have to be true for us to believe it's true, for us to think that it's true. But if we're going to believe in something, we are going to believe it's true, even if it's not. Okay, a concept need not be true to be so determined, except that one wills to believe it so. Next, beliefs are formed or adopted to satisfy a preference. And there's lots of types of preferences. Truth is one I've mentioned, which is a frequent one. But also people take on beliefs to satisfy other types of preferences. I'm trying to think of like an easy example. I'm sure if you just think through it, you'll think of some on your own. But for example, a husband who wants to cheat on his wife might start to choose to believe that his life has been miserable and she's an awful person. And he might start taking on these beliefs in order to enable him to satisfy this preference for having an affair. And so to build on this now, beliefs are formed or adopted to satisfy a preference. We'll get to the final part. Actually, we'll just do two more here. The next is beliefs are added, replaced, or adjusted, not necessarily in pursuit of truth, but consistent with an absolute commitment to preference while prioritizing a state of internal reconciliation or non-contradiction or consistency. And so obviously what we're trying to avoid is the discomfort of cognitive dissonance. So we will adjust our beliefs to make us feel like we are being consistent with the things we want, with what we know, and with what we believe. And I say with what we know loosely. So you can hit me on that if you want, but I'd have to think through exactly what I'm trying to say there. But moving on, a belief's ascribed value is equal to its correlating preference. So one of the reasons we become so emotional when a belief is challenged is because we value that belief, and you will value it as much as the thing it allows you to have. So, your preference, whatever it is you prefer, you will value that belief as much as the thing it allows you to have. So that's why if somebody challenges a belief, if the belief is just tied to a preference for truth, then we welcome challenges to belief because we prefer truth, honestly and truly. And so then we're okay adjusting beliefs consistent with truth. But if we prefer anything else at all, if the basis for our belief is to satisfy a preference for anything else, like the affair I mentioned, when we're challenged in our belief because we don't prefer truth, we're going to become emotional and angry because our belief is not tied in logic or reason. It's merely tied on justifying our procurement of this preference over here. So that is the best way I can explain belief, what I call the preferential belief adoption pathway.